The gas station that wasn't there. You ever been so tired driving at night the road starts to feel like it's melting? That's where I was. Just me, a half-dead cup of gas station coffee, and 200 miles of dark highway between me and home. I was coming back from a job interview that didn't go well. I needed that job, bad. Mortgage behind, car payments stacking up. My wife Lisa was counting on me to pull a miracle out of thin air. The sky was one solid sheet of black, no stars, no moon, just the hum of the tires and the occasional sign flashing by like ghosts whispering, "Keep driving." Then the gas light blinked on, and that's when I saw it. A small gas station up ahead, a faint glow in the fog. Old-fashioned but open. Only here's the thing. I'd driven this stretch a dozen times before. There was no gas station there, ever. Still, I slowed down. The sign buzzed faintly. Ray's filling station, flickering red against the mist. The pumps looked like they'd been pulled straight out of the 50s, and yet everything was too clean. The chrome shined like someone polished it an hour ago. A figure moved behind the counter inside the glass. A man, tall and thin, wearing an old mechanic's shirt. He looked up as I pulled in, like he'd been waiting for me. And as I stepped out, the night felt off. The air was too still. No wind, no insects. Just that low hum of the fluorescent lights that didn't seem to come from anywhere. I remember thinking, maybe I'm just exhausted. But deep down, something whispered, "You shouldn't be here." I pulled in anyway, because, well, what choice did I have? The sign read Harlow's Fuel and Service since 1952, but the paint was new, fresh, like it had been redone yesterday. Inside, there was a bell that rang when I opened the door. No music, no hum of refrigerators, just the hollow echo of that bell dying into silence and the sound of my own breathing. Then he came out, the attendant, tall, thin, dressed like he'd stepped straight out of a black and white photo, grease under his nails, a name patch reading Ray stitched in fading red thread. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. They were flat and gray, like he'd forgotten what pupils were for. "Long night, huh?" he said, his voice like sandpaper dragged across glass. I forced a chuckle, told him I just needed a fill-up, paid in cash. His hand brushed mine, ice cold, the kind of cold that doesn't come from the weather. When he dropped the coins into my palm, I froze. They were old, not just worn, old, dull silver stamped with faces and dates that shouldn't still exist. 1953, 1954. He didn't seem to notice, just nodded toward the pumps. I stepped outside. The fog had thickened, curling around the car like it was alive. The nozzle clicked. Gasoline smelled sharp and sweet. I glanced back at the station, and my stomach turned. Every light inside had gone out. No sound, no shadow, just that dark glass reflecting my own face and something moving behind it. I took a step closer. Then I heard a voice from behind me. "Almost done, honey?" I turned, and there she was, sitting in the passenger seat. Lisa, hair brushed, soft smile, wearing her blue sweater, the one I bought her last Christmas. But there was something wrong with her eyes. They didn't blink right. They were too wide, too glossy. "Lisa?" I whispered. She smiled again, that same stretched-neck hollow grin the attendant wore. "Almost home," she said softly. "We're almost home." The gas nozzle slipped from my hand, clattering to the pavement. That's when the lights in the station flickered back on, all at once, and Ray was standing in the doorway, smiling that same impossible smile. "Everything okay out here?" he asked. And for the first time, I realized I wasn't sure where here was anymore. I ran to the car, yanked open the door. Empty. No Lisa, no purse, no coffee cup, nothing but the echo of her voice still looping in my head. Almost home. Then I heard it, soft at first, like a whisper through a crack in the world. Laughter, high and hollow, twisting out from the gas station. I turned. The place wasn't the same. The bright fluorescence, the shining chrome, the clean white walls, they were gone. Now it looked ancient, roof sagging, windows boarded up, the boards burned black. The air smelled of char and old gasoline. The pumps were melted husks. Ash clung to everything. But my car's tank, full. The gauge sat on F, steady and impossible. I looked down at my phone. No bars, no time, no signal. The map still showed the highway, but where the station should have been, there was nothing. Just a gray void. That's when I saw the sign half buried in weeds, rusted through. Harlow's Fuel and Service, closed after fatal fire, October 8th, 1963. My breath caught. That's today's date. Something moved inside the ruins. A A figure. The faint orange flicker of flame glowing behind cracked glass. "Lisa?" I called, voice trembling. She stepped out, or something wearing her shape did. Her skin shimmered in the glow, eyes empty as soot. The blue sweater hung in tatters, scorched at the edges. Behind her, the attendant, Ray, was there too, his body outlined in smoke, his grin stretched wide enough to split his face. "This place takes care of its own," he rasped. Lisa's voice overlapped his, soft and sweet. "You came home just like we hoped." The air burned. The smell of gasoline thickened. The pumps hissed. I stumbled backward, the heat rising in waves from the cracked pavement. Flames crawled up the station walls, swallowing the past and the present in one breath. Ray reached out a hand, blackened, ghost-like. "Stay! It's been so long since we had company." And for one blinding second, I saw myself reflected in his eyes, standing inside the inferno. Smoke, screaming metal, then darkness like the world had been erased. I had to choose, run for the car or step into that impossible fire and find her. And God help me, I took a step forward. Got in the car and drove. Didn't look back, didn't breathe. The fog clung to the taillights like it didn't want to let me go. The farther I pressed the gas, the more the world began to rebuild itself. Road signs, trees, the rhythmic slap of the tires against asphalt. Normal things, ordinary things. But I couldn't shake the smell. Smoke and gasoline clinging to my clothes, my skin, the inside of my lungs. By the time the fog thinned and the highway opened up, I was trembling so hard I could barely hold the wheel. The radio flickered on by itself, static and whispers folding together into something almost like laughter. I turned it off. Hard. I don't remember much of the next hour. Just lights, motion, the road unspooling endlessly under me. When I finally reached the next town, I pulled into a diner that looked real enough. Peeling paint, neon sign buzzing, the kind of place that smelled like coffee and fried onions instead of burnt rubber and ghosts. Inside, the woman behind the counter gave me a look, the kind reserved for people who've seen something they can't explain. I must have looked pale, half dead. I told her what happened anyway, about the old gas station back on Route 77. The man named Ray, the woman who looked like my wife. She frowned, drying a coffee cup with a rag. "Honey, that place burned down 60 years ago," she said. "Killed the owner and his wife. They say sometimes on October 8th you can still see the lights on, but nobody ever makes it out if they stop." The world tilted. My stomach turned cold. Because when I'd seen Lisa sitting beside me, she wasn't wearing her usual clothes. Not her t-shirt, not her jacket. She was wearing that old white dress, the one from our wedding photo, from 1963. The date burned itself into my mind. October 8th, 1963, the day the station went up in flames, the day 2 people died, and outside through the diner's window, I could swear I saw it again in the distance, a faint red glow through the fog. The sign flickering. Harlow's Fuel and Service, open 24 hours. By the time I made it home, dawn was starting to bleed through the clouds, pale, sickly light spilling over the cul-de-sac, the kind of morning that should have felt safe. I parked the car in the driveway, turned off the engine, and sat there for a long time. My hands still trembled on the wheel. The gas gauge sat on full. It hadn't moved, not 1 millimeter. Inside, the house was too quiet. Lisa wasn't home. She'd gone to her sister's for the weekend. I should have been relieved. I should have felt normal again, but I didn't. I poured myself a drink I didn't need, stared at the dark window over the kitchen sink, and that's when I saw it. My reflection. And behind me, someone else's. A man, tall, thin, wearing a gray work shirt with a patch that read Ray. He smiled, that same cracked, too wide grin. The reflection moved, but I didn't. I spun around, heart pounding. Nothing. Just the faintest whiff of gasoline, the whisper of a match struck somewhere far away. When I looked back, the reflection was gone, but the window still shimmered, faint, smoky handprints pressed against the glass. Since that night, I've avoided Route 77. But every so often, when the fog rolls low and the moon hides behind the clouds, I'll catch a glimpse of red light on the horizon. The faint buzz of a neon sign that shouldn't exist. Harlow's Fuel and Service, open 24 hours. And if I listen close enough, over the hum of the engine, I can hear her voice. Soft, familiar, almost home. So if you're ever driving late at night and you see that glow in the distance, that perfect little gas station sitting where it shouldn't be, don't stop. Whatever you do, don't stop. If you enjoyed the gas station that wasn't there, make sure to like this video. It really helps this channel grow and pushes it out to more listeners just like you. Subscribe for daily eerie stories and strange tales that keep you up at night. And if you know someone who'd love a good chill, share this video with them. They'll thank you later. Thanks for listening and watching. There's another story waiting for you right there on your screen. I'll see you back here tomorrow night. The Cornfield Choir. You ever been somewhere that just feels wrong? Not because you can see anything bad. No, it's quieter than that. It's in the air, in the stillness, in the way the wind hesitates before it moves. That's how it was in Eddings, Nebraska, the kind of small town that smells like diesel, dirt, and coffee. I grew up there, rows of corn taller than you'd believe, endless fields, gold in the day, black at night. My name's Mark Jennings, 38, high school music teacher, average guy with an average life. I had a dream once to conduct a real choir, not just kids squeaking out Amazing Grace at the winter concert. But life's funny that way. You get what you get. That was before I heard them. The first night I thought it was just wind through the stalks, but no wind sounds like that. It was voices, faint, harmonic, human, singing. It came from the fields behind my house. The corn rolled like waves under the moonlight, and I stood at my window listening, my heart punching my ribs like it wanted out. The melody was beautiful, lonely, and old. It felt like something half remembered from a dream. I almost opened the door right then, almost went walking toward the sound, but something stopped me. A shiver, no, more like a warning. Like the air itself whispered, don't. The next morning, the fields were calm, nothing but the soft rasp of stalks in the wind. I told myself it was a trick of the night, my mind chasing ghosts of the past. But part of me knew better. Because when I drove to work, I swore I saw movement between the rows, shapes standing still, listening. The nights that followed were restless. The song returned, low and pulsing through the dark like a heartbeat under the earth. Each time it came, it grew clearer, closer. I began writing the notes down, unable to stop myself, pages of strange chords and progressions that didn't belong to any known scale. The students started to notice. Mr. Jennings, they'd say, "You okay?" And I'd lie, just tired. But I wasn't tired. I was being called. By the fourth night, I couldn't resist. I stepped outside barefoot, the dirt cold beneath me, and followed the sound. The moon hung low, pale as bone, and the song swelled, sweet and mournful. Then, silence. Right in the center of the field, the stalks were flattened in a perfect circle. The smell of ozone lingered, and there, in the middle of the soil, lay a single sheet of old music paper, yellowed, torn, notes scrawled in ink that shimmered faintly blue. The title at the top read, "Requiem for the Living." I should have run. I should have burned it. But I didn't. I took it home. And that's when everything began to unravel. You don't go chasing ghosts in Eddings. Folks here mind their business. But I couldn't stop thinking about that sound, like something calling me. The next evening, after grading papers, I grabbed a flashlight and drove out past the Miller farm where the corn grows thick and tall. The fields were still, too still. And then there it was again. Music, beautiful, sad. A choir right in the middle of the corn. I called out, "Hello," but the sound swallowed my voice. The singing didn't stop. It was like they couldn't hear me, or didn't care. I pushed through the rows, the leaves brushing my arms like fingers. The deeper I went, the colder the air became. I could see my breath even though it was August. The sound grew sharper, closer, a dozen voices weaving together in impossible harmony. Then my flashlight flickered and died. For one heartbeat, I stood in blackness. The voices hushed, then a whisper right behind me, soft, almost kind. "Sing with us." I bolted, tripped, fell face first into dirt. When I scrambled back to my truck, my clothes were wet, not with dew, but something thicker. Smelled like iron. The next morning, I told my friend Sheriff Lorna Pike. She laughed it off, said I was hearing irrigation pumps echoing through the stalks. But later that day, she came to my classroom, face pale. Said her deputies found footprints in the corn, bare, small, like children's, but no kids had gone missing. Not yet. Then one did. Little Amy Dillard, 8 years old, gone overnight, her bike still lying in the driveway. And the night after that, the singing was louder. The town searched every acre. The dogs wouldn't go near the fields, their tails tucked, their bodies shaking like they'd smelled fire. Lorna asked me to describe the sound again, and I tried. But how do you explain music that feels alive? That burrows under your skin and hums inside your bones? I couldn't sleep. The melody played in my head constantly. I found myself humming it in class, tapping the rhythm on my desk, not even aware I was doing it. And then something impossible. My students joined in, quietly, wordless, the same haunting tune. None of them had ever heard it before. I stopped the mid-song. Where did you learn that? Blank stares. Silence. The next day, Amy's voice joined the choir in the fields, and I swear to God, I could hear her name in the harmony. I went back out there, flashlight shaking in my hand. I told myself I was doing it for Amy, but part of me, if I'm being honest, wanted to hear it again. The fields swallowed me whole, the rows stretching taller than before, tighter, whispering as I passed. My light barely touched the path ahead. The song came low at first, a hum beneath the soil, swelling, climbing. When I reached the center, the corn opened up like a stage curtain, and standing there were dozens of them, children, pale as moonlight, eyes closed, singing in perfect harmony. Amy was there too. Her hair floated around her face as if she were underwater. Her lips moved soundlessly, but I could feel her notes vibrating through my ribs. Every voice wove into the next, a tapestry of pain and beauty that made my knees buckle. I ran to her, grabbed her wrist. It was cold, stone cold. "Amy!" I shouted. "It's me, Mark! You have to come home!" She opened her mouth wider, too wide, and the sound that came out wasn't a voice anymore. It was a scream made of music. The others joined in, and the air itself seemed to shatter. My flashlight burst. My ears rang until all I could hear was that melody burning behind my eyes. And then I saw him. A tall figure behind them, stitched together from shadow and corn dust. The stalks bent toward him, bowing, rustling like applause. His face was nothing but hollows, just absence in the shape of a man. He raised a hand and the choir fell silent. "Every town has its song," he said. His voice sounded like wind through a grave. "You just forgot yours." I stumbled back. "What do you want?" "To be remembered," he whispered. "To be sung." He pointed at me. My chest tightened and the melody surged inside, clawing to escape. My mouth opened on its own and sound poured out, notes I didn't know, harmonies that didn't belong to me. The children smiled as I sang. The ground quaked. The stalks around us began to sway, twisting, curling into shapes like faces, open mouths, endless. The figure stepped closer, his voice inside my head now. "Once you start the song, you can't stop it." And then his hand pressed to my heart, and I became part of the choir. When I woke up, it was dawn. The field was empty. My flashlight was melted into the dirt. Amy was gone. So were the others. The corn lay flat in a perfect circle around me, the soil blackened like it had been burned. I staggered out, clothes torn, throat raw from screaming, or singing, I couldn't tell which. They found my car at the edge of the road, door open, radio hissing static like a whisper too quiet to catch. Sheriff Pike showed up, boots crunching on the gravel. She took one look at me and didn't say a word, just handed me a blanket and stared out toward the fields, where the morning mist curled low and silver. "You shouldn't have gone out there," she said. Her voice trembled. They searched for Amy again, for all the missing kids. Nothing, not a footprint, not a scrap of fabric, just the same circle, neat and cruel, as if the earth had swallowed them whole. I went back home, but something inside me stayed behind. The song, it didn't stop. It lived under my skin now, humming faintly in my blood. I caught myself tapping rhythms on the counter, humming in the shower, whispering to no one. Lorna stopped by that evening. She said the townsfolk were restless. The Dillard family had packed up, said they couldn't bear the silence. But there wasn't any silence. Not really, not if you listened close. That night I stood by my window again. The wind was dead still. The moon hung like a bruise over the horizon. And then, there it was. The choir. Only now I could make out every note, every word. They were singing my melody, the one I'd written down, the one that came from that sheet of music, Requiem for the Living. I dropped to my knees, covering my ears, but it didn't matter. The sound wasn't coming from outside. It was inside my skull, vibrating through my bones. And underneath the harmony, I heard a voice, soft, almost tender. "Thank you, Mark." You remembered the song. In the distance, the corn shifted, though there was no wind. I thought I saw faces in the stalks, smiling, waiting. And for the first time, I realized the choir wasn't calling to me anymore. It was waiting for me to join in. Now, every night I leave my window open. I tell myself it's just the wind, but deep down I know the truth. They're getting stronger. It started small, a whisper through the corn, a faint hum in the distance. But now, the whole town can hear it. The cornfield choir rising from the soil, calling for someone new to join. People try to ignore it. They close their windows, turn up the TV, drown the sound in football games and beer. But you can't drown something that comes from beneath your feet. The melody slips through the cracks, through the pipes, through the walls. I've seen it in their eyes at school too. My students mouthing the words without realizing their pencils tapping out the rhythm like their hands aren't their own. Sheriff Pike doesn't come around anymore. Her cruiser sits abandoned outside the station, keys still in the ignition. Some nights, I think I see her silhouette in the field, standing perfectly still, listening. I tried to burn the music sheet, the one titled Requiem for the Living. It didn't burn. The flames bent away, shivering like they were afraid of it. So I locked it away in my desk drawer, but even now I swear I hear it rustle. I'm not the same man anymore. I see faces and reflections Amy's the others, their mouths open, their songs stretching into infinity. And when I speak, my voice carries a strange echo, like something else is speaking with me. Sometimes late at night when sleep won't come, I find myself humming along. The harmony fits perfectly, like it's always been waiting for me. You ever hear singing in the fields? If you do, don't answer back, because once you do, you're part of the song forever. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to the Cornfield Choir. If the story gave you chills, or if you're brave enough to listen again, please give this video a like. It helps the channel grow and keep stories like this alive in the algorithm. Make sure to subscribe for daily content, new tales every night, and share this one with someone who loves a good scare. There's another story waiting for you on your screen right now. Go ahead, click it, and I'll see you back tomorrow night. The motel with room 9.5. The rain had a way of swallowing the light. Every droplet hissed against the asphalt, whispering secrets to the dark. By the time I parked in front of room 9.5, the night felt heavy, like the air itself was holding its breath. The room sat between 9 and 10, though there was no space for it. The doors on either side seemed too close, like the building had been forced to make room for something that shouldn't exist. The number plate hung crooked, nailed over peeling green paint. The bulb above it flickered, then steadied, watching me, I swear. Inside, the place was small, but clean enough. A single bed, a humming mini fridge, curtains that didn't quite meet in the middle. The carpet smelled faintly of mildew and something else, sweet like rotting fruit. I dropped my bag, kicked off my boots, and fell onto the bed. The springs groaned, almost like a sigh. That's when I noticed the hum, low and steady, vibrating up through the floorboards. Not the fridge, not the air conditioner. It felt deeper, like the pulse of the building itself. I told myself I was imagining things. Long drive, bad lighting, an overworked mind. But when I closed my eyes, I could feel it. That thrum beneath me, like something alive. Sleep came in pieces. In the in-between, I thought I heard footsteps outside my door. Soft, bare, slow. Then a knock. 3 taps, deliberate, polite. I got up, every instinct screaming don't. But I went anyway. When I opened the door, no one was there. Only the rain, falling hard, washing the world in static. And just as I was about to shut it, I noticed something new. A faint, wet footprint leading away from my door, and it was going into room 9.5. I froze. Rain hammered the roof like a warning, like it was trying to drown out what was happening below it. Every open doorway gaped black, the kind of dark that looks thick enough to step into and never come back. "Hello," I called out. My voice didn't carry. It just died. Swallowed by that motel hush. I should have left. Got in the car, driven until sunrise, until the memory of this place blurred behind taillights. But my key, my bag, my life were still in that room. When I reached for the knob, room 9.5 felt colder than before. Like something inside was waiting, watching. The door creaked open by itself, an inch, like it was inviting me back in. The lights flickered once, twice, then held steady. The TV was still on, static rolling. And in the middle of the bed sat my key, wet as if it had just been pulled from a lake. I stepped forward. The hum under the floor returned, stronger this time. The wallpaper trembled with it. I pressed my hand to the wall and felt a pulse, a heartbeat. That's when I saw it, on the TV screen, a live feed of me, standing right there in room 9.5, staring at the TV. Only the me on the screen wasn't moving. He was smiling. I stumbled back, heart pounded and flinched. It just kept grinning, wide and wrong, like someone had cut the expression onto my face. The power snapped off. Everything went black except the red glow of the clock. 2:14 a.m. Something shifted in the corner of the room. A shape, low to the ground, crawling. I couldn't see it, only hear the drag of limbs across the carpet. I bolted for the door. It wouldn't open. Behind me, that voice came again, the same one from the static. A woman's voice, soft, almost kind. "Why did you come back, Daniel?" My blood turned to ice because I hadn't told anyone my name. Then, in the flash of lightning outside, I saw it in the mirror above the bed. Someone standing inside my reflection, smiling like they'd been waiting a very, very long time. I fell, not far, not fast, but deep. The air turned thick, hot, humming with that same pulse from the walls above. When I hit bottom, it wasn't solid. It breathed. The ground itself moved beneath me, slow, wet, like I was standing on something alive. The darkness wasn't empty. It rippled as though something massive was just beneath the surface, circling. And then I saw them, the doors, hundreds of them, lining the black walls in every direction. Each door bore a fraction, 1/2, 2/2, 3/2, all the way up to 9/2. They quivered, bulged as if something behind them wanted out. And then one opened, room 9/2. Light spilled from it, cold and white, and my reflection stepped through. Only it wasn't a reflection anymore. It was me, but cleaner, calmer, the version I used to be before everything fell apart. He smiled the same smile from the TV. "You were supposed to stay," he said. His voice came from everywhere, the walls, the floor, my own chest. This place remembers what people try to forget. I backed away, but the doors all began to open, one by one, spilling, whispering shadows. The air filled with faces I recognized. My ex-wife, the manager, strangers whose eyes were hollow, all murmuring the same words. "Stay, stay, stay." My other self reached out. "You can start over here. No pain, no guilt, just the version of you that never broke." And in that moment, I wanted it. The peace, the silence, the chance to undo what I'd done. But I remembered the road, the rain, the ache of being alive. I screamed and grabbed the only real thing I could find, the key. The brass tag, still slick with water. I drove it into his chest. He didn't bleed. He cracked like glass under strain, and the world screamed with him. The doors slammed shut, one by one, thunder rolling through the void. Light exploded. The hum stopped. And I was back in the room 9/2, alone. The floor was solid again, the TV off, the clock flashing 2:15. But in the mirror, my reflection was gone. And the voice, hers, whispered softly behind me, "Welcome home, Daniel." I started driving again that morning, though I couldn't remember getting in the car. The sky was a dull bruise, rain thinning into mist, the horizon a smear of gray. My headlights cut through the fog like knives. But no matter how far I went, it all looked the same. Same mile markers, same sagging trees leaning toward the road, as if they wanted to whisper something. The radio crackled to life on its own. Just static at first, then a faint rhythmic thump beneath it. That hum, the one from the walls. I switched it off, but the sound didn't stop. It was inside the car now, inside me. When I passed a gas station, I pulled over, desperate for proof the world was still real. The clerk blinked at me like I was a ghost. Said he hadn't seen anyone on the road for hours. Said this stretch hadn't had a motel in decades. Burned down in '79. An accident that killed the owner and his wife. He slid me a paper napkin to wipe the rain off my face, but when I looked down, he'd written something on it. "You shouldn't have taken the key." I dropped it, stumbled back outside, heart jackhammering. The sky had gone black again, though my watch said it was only noon. When I opened the car door, the key was sitting on the dashboard, glistening wet, though I hadn't touched it since the ditch. Every instinct screamed to throw it away, but my fingers wouldn't listen. They curled around it, trembling. The metal was warm this time, like it had a pulse. And then I saw it in the rearview mirror, for just a heartbeat. The motel sign flickering in the mist behind me. Vacancy. Room 9/2 glowing soft red beneath it. I spun around. Nothing. Just empty road. Now I drive because I can't stop, because every time I close my eyes, I see that crooked door waiting for me again. Sometimes I hear her voice over the engine, soft and steady, reminding me, "You never left, Daniel." And maybe she's right. Maybe the road isn't a road at all. Maybe it's just the hallway, and I'm still walking toward room 9.5. I keep driving. Sometimes the road feels endless, like I've been looping the same stretch of highway for years. Same gas stations, same rain, same empty sky. But every now and then, I catch a flash of red in the distance, a pulse of neon in the corner of my eye. When I look straight at it, it's gone. But I know what it is. The Lodge Motel, room 9.5, waiting. The key still hangs from my rearview mirror. I've tried to throw it away 100 times. Each morning, it's right back where it was, swinging gently, ticking against the glass with every bump in the road. Sometimes, when the car's quiet and the hum starts up again, I swear I can hear someone whispering through the metal. A woman's voice. "Come home, Daniel." Maybe I never left that room. Maybe this is just what it feels like to be trapped between one world and the next. Half alive, half forgotten. I don't know anymore. But part of me wonders if that motel wasn't a place at all, but a choice. A place people find when they're running from themselves. And once you've been inside, a part of you always stays there, pressed between the walls, whispering through the static. So if you're ever driving a long, lonely road at night and you see a flicker of neon through the rain, keep going. Don't stop. Don't check in. Don't listen when the wind calls your name, because some doors don't lead anywhere you can come back from. Tell me, if you saw the door for room 9.5, would you open it? If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like the video. It really helps the channel grow and keeps these stories alive in the algorithmic dark. Subscribe if you haven't already. I post new tales like this every single day. And if you know someone who loves a good scare, share this video with them. Thank you for listening and watching. There's another story waiting for you right now, just there, on your screen. I'll see you back here tomorrow night. The Well Behind Grandma's House. You ever have a place from your childhood that feels different when you think back on it? Like something inside you knew it wasn't right, even then? For me, that place was my grandma's backyard. Sweet old woman, always smelled like cinnamon and Pond's cold cream. She made the best apple pies in the county, won ribbons for them even. But behind her house, past the patch of milkweed and the broken swing set, was a well, an old, stone-rimmed thing that my grandpa had boarded up before I was born. He used to say, "Don't go near it. There's things that don't belong in sunlight down there." And he'd smile when he said it, but not the kind of smile that reaches your eyes. I was 8 the first time I heard something moving down there. Soft, wet, like breathing. And that's where it all started. It was the summer of '96, the year of the cicadas. The air was thick and humming, like the whole world was vibrating with secrets. Grandma's house sat on a stretch of land that seemed to sag beneath the weight of years. Paint peeling from the porch posts, wind chimes made of spoons and old keys tinkling in the hot breeze. I spent most of my days barefoot, exploring, the kind of freedom kids don't really get anymore. But I always came back to that spot, where the grass grew longer and darker, where the air seemed cooler even at noon. The well. Sometimes I thought I saw something down there. Not a shadow exactly, but a shimmer like the air above asphalt on a hot day. Grandma caught me staring once. Her voice went sharp, cutting through the heavy afternoon. "Don't go near it, Eli." And when I turned, her face wasn't soft and warm anymore. It was pale, almost afraid. That's how I knew something was down there, something waiting. I stumbled backward, my heel catching on a root, fell hard enough to knock the wind out of me. When I looked up again, the fingers were gone. Only the echo of that slow, wet, dragging sound, like something retreating into the dark. I ran to the house. Grandma was sitting at the kitchen table, a mug of tea shaking in her hands. The clock ticked too loudly. Rain had started to fall outside, soft at first, then harder, a steady drumming that made the world feel smaller. "Grandma," I panted. "There's something in that well." She didn't look at me, just stared at the window like she could see through the storm. "I told you to leave it be," she murmured. "It remembers when you look at it." That didn't make sense. None of it did. But her eyes were glossy with tears, real ones. "I sealed it after your grandpa passed," she whispered. "But the boards don't hold forever. Every few years it starts calling again. Calling again. That phrase stuck in my head all day. That night, the power went out. The house turned black except for the flash of lightning through the windows. I could hear the wind howling, trees groaning, and underneath it, so faint I almost thought I dreamed it, came a sound from the yard. My name, long drawn out, Illy. I crept to the window, my flashlight trembling in my hand. The rain had eased, and in the pale flash of lightning, I saw the boards over the well gone, torn aside like matchsticks. The next flash showed footprints, wet ones. Leading toward the house, I stumbled back, tripped over a chair, hit the floor. My breath came fast, shallow. The front door latch clicked, slow and deliberate. Then, silence. Grandma's voice came from the hallway, hoarse and small. "Don't open it, Eli, no matter what it sounds like." But then I heard her again, from outside, pounding on the door. "Eli, let me in, it's cold." Two voices, both hers. My skin went ice cold. I didn't know which one to believe. And that's when I realized whatever was in that well didn't just want out. It wanted me. The silence didn't feel like peace. It felt like the moment before something terrible exhales. Then the boards above us groaned. Heavy, dragging footsteps moved across the porch, each one slower than the last. Grandma held the cross so tight her knuckles went white. "Don't look, Eli," she whispered. But I couldn't help it. Curiosity's a cruel thing. It makes you open doors that should stay shut. The window beside the sink fogged over. From outside, something was breathing against the glass. I crept closer, couldn't stop myself, and when I looked, it was my face staring back at me, but wrong. The skin gray and water swollen, the eyes black and empty, like something had scooped out what made me human. The reflection smiled, a long, splitting grin that cracked the skin around its mouth. Then it whispered in my own voice, "Come home." The window shattered inward. Shards of glass flew, slicing the air. The counter, my arm, I fell back, screaming. Grandma threw herself between me and that thing. She pressed the cross to its face, and a sound came out of it that I'll never forget. A howl like drowning. Steam rose where the metal touched it. The smell was awful, like rotten iron. It thrashed, knocking her to the floor. I grabbed the fire poker from the hearth and swung with everything I had. The sound it made, thick, wet, final, echoed through the kitchen. It staggered back toward the door, and before I could blink, it was dragging itself outside, pulling its ruined body toward the well. Lightning flashed, white, blinding, and I saw them then. Dozens of hands reaching from the hole, grasping, pulling the thing back down. The earth swallowed it like a hungry mouth. Then, silence again. Real this time. Grandma was slumped against the cabinets, bleeding from her temple, her breathing shallow. She looked up at me, eyes glassy but sure. "You finished what he started?" she whispered. "Don't ever let it open again." And as the first light of morning crept across the floorboards, I realized the truth. The thing hadn't escaped. It had just traded places, and somewhere deep inside that well, something else now had my face. I told myself I was imagining it. Grief does that. It bends what's real, makes shadows out of memories. But when I went outside, the grass around the well was damp, fresh, the air colder than the rest of the yard. I knelt beside it, feeling the pull of that blackness again, like the air itself was reaching up for me. My reflection wavered in the dark, not in water, but something thicker. For a heartbeat, I thought I saw movement, a shape just beneath the surface. My hand twitched forward before I caught myself. Then a voice, soft, familiar, "Eli." Grandma's voice. I stumbled back so fast I nearly fell. My pulse thundered in my ears. There was no one else around. Mom was packing boxes, the neighbors long gone, but the voice had been clear as day, rising up from the deep. When I went back inside, Mom asked if I was all right, said I looked pale. I told her it was the heat. But later, when she found me staring out the window again, she said something that froze me in place. "Funny thing," she said, absently folding one of Grandma's aprons. "When I was little, Grandma used to tell me stories about that old well. Said she heard voices in it too. Said your grandpa went missing because of it." I asked her what she meant. She frowned. "Didn't I tell you? He didn't die in a hospital, Eli. He disappeared. They never found him." That night, I couldn't sleep. The sound of dripping came from somewhere in the house. Slow, rhythmic, like water falling into water. I followed it to the kitchen sink, dry. To the bathroom, nothing. Then I realized it was coming from beneath the floorboards. A cold draft brushed against my ankle. I knelt, pressed my ear to the old wood, and listened. Drip, 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 and under that, breathing. I left before sunrise. Didn't tell Mom why. Didn't say goodbye to the house. But when I started the car, the rearview mirror caught something in the window. My reflection. Only it wasn't moving with me. It just smiled. And behind it, through the dusty glass, I could swear I saw the well open again. At first, I laughed, a nervous, hollow sound that didn't feel like it came from me. But then I noticed something in the corner of the photograph, barely visible unless you tilted it toward the light. A shadow, long, human-shaped, standing beside the well. My heart kicked against my ribs because the shadow wasn't Grandma's and it wasn't mine. I flipped the photo over again, tracing that crooked handwriting with my thumb. The ink had bled as if the words had been written in water or something worse. That night, the dreams came harder. I was standing by the well again, only this time the boards were gone and I could see something glimmering at the bottom. My own reflection staring up at me, smiling. It whispered, "You came back." When I woke, there was dirt under my fingernails, wet dirt, and my window wide open. I don't know if the well ever truly closes. Maybe some doors can't. Maybe once you've looked into that kind of darkness, it marks you, puts its scent on you like a bloodhound's trail. I moved states, changed my number, burned the photograph. But even now when it rains, I hear the drip, drip, drip in the pipes in the walls in my chest. Sometimes I dream that I'm back at Grandma's again, that I can hear her humming in the kitchen, the smell of cinnamon thick in the air. I walk toward her, but when she turns, it's me. And behind her, through the window, the well is waiting. Always waiting. Maybe that's the worst part. Knowing that what's buried never stays buried. It just waits for someone foolish enough to start digging. So if you ever find an old boarded up well in someone's backyard, don't look inside. Because if you do, it might just look back. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video. It really helps the channel grow and keeps these stories reaching more listeners. Subscribe for daily chills and haunting tales just like this one. And share this video with someone who loves a good scare. Thanks for listening and for watching. There's another story waiting for you right there on your screen. Click it if you dare. I'll see you back here tomorrow.